Hi, I'm Paris from Paris May Reads, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about my last month of reading, all the books I read, their star ratings, and all the content. Let's get into it. We're starting lowest to highest with my star ratings. So we're going to start with kind of a one-off. I usually don't rate this low, but 2.5 stars. And this is a hot take. I love hot takes. So let's see if you agree with me. Let me know in the comments. But The Housemaid by Frida McFadden was 2.5 stars for me. I just wasn't my favorite. This is the only book I've read by her, and I just didn't really love her writing style. It seemed very informal and laid back, almost like I was reading a blog, or I don't know, just wasn't working for me. This book's a thriller, and it follows a girl who is hired as a housemaid by a married couple with a daughter, and things start getting crazy. My quick takes on this book are strong language, closed door spice, and then some of the content considerations. One of the biggest ones, which was a drawback for me as well, was extramarital affairs. I just don't enjoy reading books with affairs in them. Additionally, this one had torture and unaliving. Like I said, this is a hot take. Obviously, this book and the trilogy is very popular. I actually really liked the idea of where McFadden was taking the main character in the epilogue and what she is going to do in the rest of the trilogy. I do not plan to read it or anything else by her. Like I said, her writing style just wasn't for me. So if you liked this book though, I could recommend a couple more. I also didn't like these. But again, we can disagree on books. All right. So if you liked The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, I would also recommend Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I'm not going to be able to list off content for you. And then second, You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. This one does have some spice in it, and I can't remember if it's opened or not, but it does have a romantic storyline in it. But if you liked The Housemaid and are looking for more books like that you would enjoy, I would recommend both of those. Now we're doing a quick bump up to the 4-star range. This is the majority of where my books fall in 4 and up. There are 3 books in my 4-star category from this month. First off is Before the King by Heather Kaufman. This is a biblical fiction book. It follows Joanna's story from the New Testament, and it is a fun view into a wealthy family's, or a more wealthy family's lifestyle in that time period in Israel during the Roman Empire. It was really fun to be in that time period, and she brushes shoulders with Jesus. I think getting dropped into this plot is really fun if you have been in the New Testament a lot and reading. My quick takes on this one are no language, closed door spice, and then some of the content considerations is chronic illness representation, family death, and past child loss. If you like The Chosen, this one is for you. Additionally, any type of biblical fiction, off the top of my head, there is a series by Lynn Austen that is about King Hezekiah that is fabulous, especially for teen readers. I read it in high school. Also, Conlon Cosette comes to mind. She has some really great biblical fiction books as well. Before the King is actually the second book in a series called Women of the Way, and they are all standalones. I have not read the first book, so even if you haven't read the first book, I would recommend Before the King if this storyline interests you. The next 2 books, we're going to lump them together. This is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. And if you have seen my other YouTube videos or have followed me recently on Instagram, you know that I am eating up this series. I am actually through the first 4 books now. And the only reason why I haven't picked up the 5th one is because I know once I do, it's going to be all consuming. And I have some books I need to get through first. So Emma definitely takes up all my focus. So the first 2 books are only 100 or so pages. So they're really quick, and I read them back to back, and both of them are basically setting up the background of Emma and setting up the storyline for the rest of the books. Book 3 is really where I feel like things started to come into focus more and the plot started developing further. This is a historical romance, although yet to be seen any romance, which is kind of fun. It is very, 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 very slow burn, and so there's no spice in these, there's no language. And the content considerations on this one are grief and past deaths of family members and friends. Okay, moving right up into the 4.5 stars, we're going to start off with my read-along book from this month. Every month, I love hosting a read-along on Instagram, and it's actually in my Fable, in the Fable app. I have a book club in Fable. Fable is awesome for book clubs. I do not actually track my reads there. I still do that in Goodreads because you can't teach an old dog new tricks, okay? But the Fable book club is really fun. So I'll put a link in my description for my Fable book club if you want to join me there. And we pick books in that month. You don't even have to be following me on Instagram. It's all contained within that app for my read-along book club. The book we did this month was Saints and Monsters by Ellen McGinty, and this is a YA fantasy, and it was fabulous. Ellen McGinty actually lives in Japan, and it's all based off of Japanese culture, and it was just fascinating. And her writing is lyrical. It made me think of Rebecca Ross in the best way. So if you like Rebecca Ross, I would highly recommend Saints and Monsters. This is basically as clean as it gets for a fantasy, in my opinion, especially at this level, like age level of reading. I think this would be great for teens. Like I said, it is based on Japan, so the realm that it's set in really feels like you are in Japan and the Japanese culture, and the storyline follows 3 siblings, but mainly 2 sisters, and their brother is in there as well. But the 2 sisters, one is ready to become queen, and she ends up, well, I'm not even gonna tell you because I wasn't expecting it at all when that happened. So anyway, if you read the blurb though, I think it's in there, so you might know anyway. But her sister, who has a disability, is actually trying to step in to save her sister and the kingdom. So it is a really fun family bond, sisterly love, self-sacrificing type of read, and it has a lot of really great truths throughout. In Saints and Monsters, there is no language. The spice level is kisses only. I think there's only like 1 or 2 brief kisses. And then the content is violence and killing, and like I said, there's disability representation as well. Next up in the 4.5 star category is The First Girl Child by Amy Harmon, and this again is a fantasy, and it is my first by her. She gets a lot of hype on Bookstagram, and I'm just really excited to read more so that I can really feel like I understand why people give her a lot of hype. I don't think that this book really got there for me until around the 60% mark, so it took me a while to get into it. It's a coming of age story, and that is not what I was expecting out of it. It follows a young boy who was born and then raised by his uncle, and his uncle lives in the temple, so he grows up in the shadow of magic, and it is right next to the palace and the king, who ends up being, we're not gonna get into it again. I personally like going in blind to a book, so I don't love giving synopses of books, but that's all I'm going to give you. This is a fantasy novel based on Norse mythology, and I love any type of mythology, so I really love the elements that were sprinkled throughout and the realm, and it had a very Viking feel. So if you like those themes, I would definitely check out this one. There is no language in this book, and the spice is like a vague, non-explicit open door. There's only 1 scene. It's like in between Fade to Black and Open Door. I don't really know how to describe those when that happens, but it's not explicit, but you still know what's happening. It's like if you were watching it on TV, you were watching it through like a fogged piece of glass. You can't see anything, but you know what's going on. In my notes, I put Fade to Black, but I feel like it's just a tad bit more than Fade to Black. The content in this, I mean, come on, it's Vikings. So we're going to have death. We're going to have violence. There is also blood rune magic and stillborns, and also child abduction. Those themes were kind of hard for me to read. So as a mom, I just don't love those themes, but they're in there. Additionally, this is part of a duology, and I thought that it was going to be like it ends on a cliffhanger and then you start the second book, but it actually wraps up really nicely, and then the second book follows, I think, a different storyline, and I don't even know which one. I haven't looked into it, but I'm excited to dive more into Amy Harmon's work because I see her historical fiction on Bookstagram all the time, and I feel like her fantasy doesn't get as much airtime, and I wanted to start with one of her fantasies because that's the genre I'm loving right now. And I feel like I didn't really get to her, like the writing style everyone talks about, until I got to around 60%, and also at that point I switched to the audio, and I really loved the narrator. It was a man, and he didn't do any voices or anything, but just his voice was nice to listen to, and I just think he did a really great job. It actually put me more into the book than reading it on my Kindle. So this one's on Kindle Unlimited, and hack if you add a book on Kindle Unlimited to your library and has the little audio headphone icon in it, you can go into Audible if you also have Audible, and the book is in your Audible library without using a credit, so you can download and listen to the audio. So that's how I did that on this one, and I think I am gonna read the second book. It's called The Second Blind Son, I believe, but again, I don't know what storyline it follows within the characters, but this one wraps up really nicely. So if you want to read it as a one-off standalone, you can definitely do that. And third on my 4.5 stars, I think this was my favorite one from my 4.5 stars, just because it's been a while since I've been in this genre. But this one is Horses of Fire by A.D. Ryan. It's a mythological retelling, and I didn't realize until after I read the book that A.D. Ryan is actually a pen name for two friends who co-authored this book, and they did a fabulous job. This is about Troy. We have Helen of Troy as one of the points of views. There's actually 4 points of views in this book, and I listened to the audio, and I'll have it linked below as well. I listened to it on Audible, and it was just fantastic. There was a different person narrating for every point of view, and I thought it was great. And I already have the second book, Daughter of Bronze. I already used my next credit on it, and so I need to get into listening on that one. But this is a duology, and it does end on a cliffhanger, and the next book does pick up as part of the same storyline. So far I am really loving it. It has been a while since I've been in a mythological retelling, so it took me a little bit to get back into the mindset of like, okay, who are these characters again? Like, do I remember these from other books that I've read? So it was fun. If you've read the Odyssey or the Iliad, we got Odysseus in there, Achilles. Yeah, there's some big names in this one, and it was really fun to get into it, and I'm excited to keep reading. I will say on the language, I do not remember if there was language or not, but I listened to the audio, and usually on audio it is very obvious when there's language, because instead of my eye being able to just skip over it while I'm reading, I'm like, I hear it, and it's a little bit more like, oh, and I don't remember there being any. So if there is, it's going to be mild, and it's not going to be very often. So sorry about that. Spice again on this one is similar to Amy Harmon's. There is one vague open door scene. So again, like, you know what's happening, but there's no explicit content. So that's the spice level for this book. And content considerations. All right, y'all, this is a mythological retelling, so you got to know there's some big content considerations in here. We got themes of war, violence, slavery, pregnancy loss. We also have infertility, abuse, and past sexual assault as well. All right, let's get into the 5 stars, a new genre to start this one off that we haven't talked about yet. It's a memoir, Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz, and I loved this one. Again, I listened to it on audio, and I think if you can listen to a memoir narrated by the author, that is just the best audio experience, and Bethany Joy Lenz is no exception. This is Bethany Joy Lenz's memoir of how she was in a cult while she was on a cult TV show. So she is one of the main actors in One Tree Hill. I actually did not ever watch One Tree Hill. I had a roommate in college that was obsessed with it, and I watched the occasional episode with her, just like random one-offs. And my husband actually is obsessed. Mr. Reeds loved One Tree Hill, and I keep telling him we need to rewatch it together, or me watch it for the first time and him rewatch it. So I just think it would be like a fun show to have on to just watch from time to time. Yeah, this really proved to me like how great of an actress she was, because she relates some phone calls that she would have and then have to go right onto set and act, and the turmoil she was dealing with and then having to go act crazy. She is talented. I also really enjoyed this book because it starts off like, you're wading through the waters with her, and they're starting to get warm, and everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, all right, things are starting to get a little warmer, okay? And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is boiling water, and we are frogs, and we are getting cooked, okay? And I think she did a really great job. What she says at the end was her whole point in writing this book, but I think she does a really great job of showing how someone can be manipulated into a cult like this, and how the truth that she thought she was pursuing was just slightly twisted. I hope, like myself as a Christian, I hope that she has been able to find reconciliation and redemption of this experience, because anytime that God's truth and word is twisted for evil is just heartbreaking to me, and that's exactly what she experienced. So if you're fans of Educated by Tara Westover, the Cultist podcast, or One Tree Hill, you should read this book. The language in this is strong. Some of the language is cursing God, and I think that just shows the emotional turmoil and devastation that she was in throughout her experience. But it is in there, so if you don't want to read that, then don't read this book. Spice, there's no spice. And then content considerations are themes of manipulation, emotional abuse, and toxic relationships. And the last 2 books we're going to clump together again. These are both 5-star, and these are the final 2 books in Nicole Van's series, The Penleaths of Thistlemere, and they're fabulous. I love that I read these back to back, because They basically feed into one another. But this is the fourth book, A Heart Sufficient. It follows two characters that then go into the fifth book, which is A Heart Devoted, and it is a specific novella that just is based on these two characters. So she basically said, oh, you like these two characters so much, and this is like my most beloved book. Here's another one about these two characters. I mean, hello, what more can you ask of for an author? It was fabulous. So actually got a last minute ARC copy, early copy of the fifth book right after I finished A Heart Sufficient, and it was so great. I read it like right as it was releasing, and I just love this series. If you're looking for a historical romance, Regency romance type read, this is it. It is set in England and Scotland, and if you can get it on audio, even better. The audio narrator accent is fantastic, and I have nothing but good things to say about this series. The language is mild, the spice is closed door, and some of the content considerations are traumatic childhood and toxic family relationships. And that's it for my monthly roundup. I hope this inspires you to add a couple of new books to your TBR. If you end up adding or reading any, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear which ones. And I would be so grateful if you could give this video a like and subscribe to my channel here if you're not already. And make sure you go check out this video right here. It's a good one. Until next time, I hope all of your reads are 5 stars.